Welcome to episode 10 of What to Read This Weekend. I'm Rachel.
I am Marie.
And we have
a
special guest today. Andrea Swenson is our guest librarian, and she curates the LGBTQ Studies CCD. I always want to say CCD collection, but I guess that's repetitive.
I know, but you have to, because what's a CCD? Nobody knows.
Yeah,
they went to
special
in the 70s.
Special collection. Special collection. So she helped us curate the titles this week. If this is your first time joining us, we have a weekly show every Friday at 3, where we share with you a few books on a theme. We hope you'll read them this weekend or sometime soon in the future. You can watch us live, or we post the videos on IGTV and YouTube, and I'll put the show notes link at the end of the show in the chat. I'm having poor internet connection, so I turned off my screen today. So, Marie, you want to share with us what books we're going to chat about this week?
We have so many exciting things. It is The Music of What Happens, The Prince and the Dressmaker, which, by the way, gets taken every year, but I figure it's all good. The Revolution of Pretty Randolph, and Like a Love Story.
All right. So first up, we have The Music of What Happens. Take it away, Andrea.
All right. If I could have little hearts like bouncing around my head for this book, I totally would. It is not, I mean, they're holding hands on the front, right? This is a romance in a lot of ways. But it's not, like, it just doesn't look like it's going to be great. And I will say it starts a tiny bit, it's really in their heads in the beginning. And the two main characters, so Jordan, his father has left, they've got terrible money problems at home, and they have a food truck that's basically going to wreck. It happens in Phoenix, Arizona, so they actually have like a driveway. And the food truck is functional enough that if he can get this food truck running, he could possibly help support his family. And so he opens up the truck with his mom, and his mom honestly is like no help at all. And basically this kid from school, Max, comes by, realizes things are really not okay, and offers to help him because, as it turns out, Max is actually super into food. So this is like a book that takes place in large part inside a food truck in some ways, but also this is they slowly come out to one another. They end up dating. I'm not telling you anything you won't learn from the cover. But what's so amazing about this book is it is about teenagers kind of holding adults in their lives accountable and calling them out when they aren't, even if it obviously doesn't solve the problem, but this idea of feeling powerful. And then one of the other things that's so incredible about this book is that Max, just who you just love, has had a really, really terrible experience. In some ways, a little bit. Well, yeah, it's a story of basically assault, but one of those things where no one who doesn't really get it would call it that. And so he's really traumatized. And this is also a book about like what happens when guys end up in this circumstance, which is invisible, I think, in most books. So you will love these two human beings. By the end, I literally was like looking for another chapter after the last page. That is The Music of What Happens.
And it's available on ebook from New York Public Library and Brooklyn Public Library. The next book is The Prince and the Dressmaker. This is a graphic novel, and we just couldn't not include this in our top 4 this week because I'm so excited. We've been trying to talk about this book. I mean, it could fit almost so many of the categories that we've talked about in the last 10 weeks. But it's available on Open EBooks, which is simultaneous use, which means that you can share this. You can read it with all of your friends at the same time. I even had a teacher this year who used this book as a follow-up to Twelfth Night. So it can be used in the classroom with curriculum. So this is the story of Frances. She was just fired. She's the dressmaker. She was fired for being too daring with her designs, and she happens upon this Prince Sebastian, who is looking for someone to make dresses. And it turns out he's looking for someone to make dresses for his kind of double life as Lady Crystalia. And he is what you would classify as Prince's Sebastian's closest confidant, as she kind of has to keep his secret that he has this double life while trying to establish herself as a fashion designer. So this is it kind of is a little bit of a trope, like a familiar coming out story, but I feel like the way that it's done, the time period, the fashion, the art, which is gorgeous, is like happens in an unexpected way. And I thought it was beautiful, both the story and the pictures. And I think it appeals to such a large age range. Like adults like this, middle school, high school. I think elementary school kids would love this. I think it has overall great appeal. And it is available from Open EBooks, which a lot of librarians have access to. So if you are looking for a code, talk to your librarian or reach out to one of us. Next up, I don't remember who was doing Birdie.
Oh, it's not changing.
Yeah, all I see is just the princess and the. Oh,
there we go. Okay. Sorry, I was waiting. So the Revolution of Pretty Randolph. I'll admit that my initial feelings about the cover of this book. I mean, I own it in my library, and I really like Brandy Colbert, and at least I'm with you. It is a 10 out of 10. I just, you again are going to fall in love with Pretty Randolph. She lives in Chicago. She's a sophomore in high school. She's one of those kids who's been really good at doing what she was supposed to do. She's heading into the summer vacation, and she's supposed to be working in her mom's hair salon downstairs and studying for the SAT. But of course, she's also dating a guy her parents don't want anything to do with. And her aunt, who she hasn't seen basically ever, has decided to come and stay. And her aunt, which is in her family a pretty complicated situation. Her aunt is in recovery. She's an addict. And initially, obviously, Birdie isn't sure how to feel about her. And then the thing that's so great about this book is they do form a really positive relationship. But of course, hiding things from your family, in which you've usually been pretty successful at keeping things good, easy, and managing some family drama create not the summer that she was expecting. And it is, I would just... first love, complicated teen decisions, and awkward situations, but also very real without being like super, super rough. I would highly recommend it. And you can get it at Libby or SimplyE at the New York Public. And we have the ebooks available and the audiobook from New York Public Library. You can get it from Brooklyn Public, but there is a wait list right now.
Oh my God, am I off mute? Because I'm so excited. So I'm totally obsessed. I have the book behind me on the shelf. So here are my 3 intro words. Madonna, 1989, AIDS, activism, and fashion design. I mean, who wouldn't want to read that book now? This is technically a historical novel, which disturbs me because it's actually something I lived through. It is set in New York City during a school year, starting in 1989, going to 1990. There are 3 people, 3 friends. Reza, who's an Iranian immigrant. He comes to New York, and there are 2 friends, Art and Judy. And Art is an activist and an artist, and he is the only queer person in his entire school. Judy is aspiring to be a plus-sized fashion designer. She's plus size herself, and she has an uncle, Steven, who is a member of ACT UP, which since Larry Kramer has passed away, Larry was part of that whole activism. And I don't even know how to, so basically Art gets a lesson in activism. Reza, of course, because you can tell there's going to be some sort of love triangle. There must be 3 people on the cover, so yes. Reza comes and he kind of is dating Judy, but as he becomes more and more aware of himself, he realizes that he probably has more feelings for Art. There is a love triangle. And he though is so closeted that he can't, he's having a hard time finding his way out of it. Why you should read it. There are no cell phones in this book. I totally forgot. That's what happened so many years ago. There's no cell phones. It's a great way to learn about AIDS in a time when it first arrived, was first a pandemic. I also liked that this isn't just a love story about falling in love, romantic love. It's also a story of friendship and commitment, which I always like to see. It also has a fat character, and you know how I love me some fat characters, and I really love Judy's portrayal. And I also like the whole part of ACT UP. If you want to learn more about what was ACT UP, this is your place to go. The book is told in chapters, but a different character narrates the chapter. And I've had students tell me, but Miss, I always get confused. The chapters are written very differently, and you don't get lost because you know which voice you're reading about. I cried, I laughed. I think I gave this book to like 15 people that I loved it. It is so wonderful. Did I say everything wonderful? And it's the soundtrack of Madonna that whole year. It was, and I guess my last thing is I very much identified with Reza's struggle to come out, his fear of AIDS, what that meant by being a gay man, and also like Judy and Art's friendship. So I think everyone should read it.
I also got this from FirstBook a couple weeks ago, so hopefully it'll be in time for my birthday present to myself.
Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it.
I organized these books in rainbow order.
Oh,
so they were not
I love it. Wait, what is the topic about? Oh, which one?
This week we're talking about LGBTQ fiction. For Pride Month. And because we just can't stop talking about these books. So they're not in the order that we had written them originally. So because I wanted to put them in rainbow order. So take it away.
All right. Okay. Felix Ever After. I need everybody. It's not big enough. I need everybody to appreciate
It's
just
so beautiful.
first of all how darn beautiful it is, right? It's so beautiful. I just, all of them are so beautiful. So Felix Ever After is written by Kacen Callender, who is now living in Philly, but is a New York City writer who originally is Caribbean American, came from St. Thomas. And this is an Own Voices book. Felix is Black, queer, and trans. And this book, it's intense, first of all, just like, I'm sorry, being Black, queer, and trans in the universe right now is intense, right? And then to have so many uncertainties. Felix is nearing the end of high school and is very concerned about going to college, doesn't really have the grades to get where he wants to go, is an artist, and that is an incredibly competitive field, has friends, goes to a private school it's set in New York City, and so is around lots of people with all this privilege, not necessarily because of their race, but also because of just how much money they have, and is really caught up and confused. And so there's a lot of drama in this book, but just so worth it. There are romances and relationships. There is every kind. I mean, we were talking yesterday about representation and like, where are our ace characters? Where are our people of color? It is in this book, Felix Ever After. Kacen Callender is just like, writes with so much heart and so much energy. And it skews a little older. I will tell you that there is kind of casual drug use and a heck ton of cursing in this book. But that's okay. It works. We are hoping that there will be many more copies in the public library system after everyone complains and puts this book on hold. But for right now, there are just limited copies at Brooklyn Public Library. I've been pushing New York Public to get 1,000 of these. So anyway, there you go, Felix Ever After. You can just carry it around for its attractiveness.
It's beautiful. So I'm doing The Love and Lies of Rukhsana. No, how do we say her name? Doesn't matter.
I would say
because I'm notorious for saying things wrong or smash ups. Anyway, so I will give you a little disclaimer. There is some domestic violence. There is some pretty horrible treatment by her parents, but I won't get into that. So the book is set in Seattle. She is a immigrant. Her parents are from Bangladesh. She lives in a very conservative Muslim world, but she is in love with Ariana, and Ariana's a girl from school. And basically their plan is to go to college together and get out from her mother's and father's thumb. But her mother finds out, and of course not of course, but in this book is disgusted and terrified for her daughter. So she sends her off back to Bangladesh to marry her off. And so the rest of the book is about finding allies in unexpected places, about Bengali culture. I thought it really did it was very representative. It was very lush in that respect. There is one part of the book that is pretty extreme, that causes the parents to realize the value of their daughter. And the twist is a little disturbing. I don't want to like completely go into it, but I'll give you that. Her parents are horrible people. It takes a very severe shock for them to come to understand their daughter. There's a little domestic violence, abuse, there's a murder. Anyway, It was very enjoyable, a very popular book in my library. Forbidden Love. Oh, I'm doing Dante and Aristotle and Dante. All right. First of all, I did not know this, but Aristotle and Dante's audiobook is by Lin-Manuel. Okay, we're personal friends. So if you're listening to Hamilton and you're like, yo, I need my fix, then you should listen to him read it because it is beautiful. This is I don't even know how to explain it. I call this, I made up my own term. This is like a snapshot novel where the writer just like encapsulates all these moments in these like little poetic snapshots. And the snapshots sometimes are full of words and images, and sometimes there's just a few words and images. The characters are both really complex and not wholly good or wholly bad. And I like that about them, that they all have their issues. I also love this because it's about two boys of color who are Hispanic and about their friendship. So Aristotle is chilling at the pool and he meets his friend Dante, and the whole novel kind of like takes place as they become friends. Last thing I really thought was interesting is the characterization of the parents. So as bad as the parents were in the other novel, these parents are interesting, rich, complex parents. It has a lot of common drama, like Aristotle's brother's in jail and everybody pretends like that doesn't exist. And he has a dad who's suffering from PTSD from the war. And he is trying to figure out who he is with Dante as his best friend. And kind of for the same reason I like my other novel, Like a Love Story. It's also about enduring love of a friendship, like not just romantic love or child adult love, but also the deep love you can feel for your friends. And it's a coming of age story. And you can get it on Riveted for free.
All right. So this next one, Color Outside the Lines, is a little bit, it's a tiny bit misleading if this is a Pride book rainbow, in that technically Color Outside the Lines is about interracial relationships. So it's short stories that are about relationships, typically romantic ones, but it's explicitly about interracial relationships. But there are, I would say, at least a third of them have queer characters and queer relationships. And I have to say, I am loving finally having some real diversity in short stories, especially in just like characters outside either the classic kind of two girls fall in love, or I think it's a place, right? Not all of them are romances. These are, but I feel like they are able to really expand. And that's something I really like about short stories, is that you get so much in a little bit. You get kind of a taste. There are some incredible authors in this that you probably already know: Adam Silvera, Samira Ahmed, and a number of authors who were new to me. So I would just really highly recommend it. I'm also going to put another anthology that unfortunately has even less copies, even fewer copies available in the library. But there's a new anthology called Out Now, Queer We Go Again. And I'm going to put it in the chat. I just love that title. And that is amazing. Thank you, Rachel. It's just, I also, just authors really imagining futures for kids who have not had futures imagined in books that we have seen. So that's amazing. And then I am also talking about Full Disclosure. And I had the luck to be on Wednesday night at a book talk given by Camryn Garrett. And so let us begin with the fact that, full disclosure, was written by Camryn Garrett when she was 19. She is now 20. She's a student in New York City at college. And so already I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with that. Like, how do you write a novel at 19? That's so amazing. And Camryn Garrett does identify as queer. Her character is actually starting to fall for a guy. And she is the adopted daughter of 2 gay men. And so that is a lovely experience to kind of see this family kind of dynamic that's been, you know, it's got all the complications of normal teenagehood, and even more because when Simone, the main character, was born, she was born HIV positive. So she was adopted by her fathers, knowing that she was HIV positive. And she's lived her life quite successfully up until this moment. She's in high school. She loves theater. She's a director, and she starts to fall for someone. And as you can imagine, the complications of managing, when does she disclose her status? How does she manage it? And then the twist in this book is that then she starts getting threatening letters, threatening to disclose for her. And I am not going to say any more, but suffice to say that it's, again, got an amazing, super mixed cast. You really like her from the first page. And it's such a pleasure to see this story being told.
So I am going to talk about the last two of our little and more rainbow. And these were all books that we would have loved to feature, but there were limited copies available. Or we just couldn't not talk about the other ones. But All Boys Aren't Blue is pretty new. It came out the very end of April, and it's not fiction. So kind of lied about this one. It's a memoir. It's stories, personal essays by George M. Johnson, who is a journalist and LGBTQ activist. And it's a kind of spans his childhood, adolescence, and college years, living as a Black queer man. This is not really like a romance. This is just his personal life stories, and it talks about a lot of different things that have happened while he was a teen or coming of age: gender identity, toxic masculinity, brotherhood, family, consent, and Black joy, which I think is really, really important right now. And I'm really excited to get this one in my library. And Let Me See You in a Crown, I ordered this week. It came out June 2nd on Tuesday. And I'm super, super excited to get this in. I have not yet read this. But this is by Leah Johnson, who I think is also pretty young, herself as a writer. And it features the main character, Liz, who, is pictured, I guess they chose this picture based on the book, I guess, on the cover. And she lives in the Midwest. And Leah Johnson also grew up in the Midwest, and she feels like she's just not her skin color's not right. She doesn't have enough money. She's not cool enough to shine in her town. And she sees college as this kind of opportunity for her to start all over, for her to be herself, for her to be in the orchestra, for her to become a doctor. She's got all of her plans all set out. And then she loses her financial aid package, which is how you pay for college. And she feels like she has no other decision or at their school prom queen and king come with a scholarship. And so this is her like way out. So could a Black queer teen really become the prom queen? I feel like this sounds like a movie, but I'm super excited to read this. I think it looks great. There's limited copies at Brooklyn Public Library. I'm going to email the librarian after this event today, and we have a contact who does purchasing, and let her know which ones we think would we need to increase the copies. So we're super excited about these books. And let's see, I couldn't really think of any announcements except for Audiobook Sync. And when Teresa was our guest, we talked about Like No Other. Marie, did you want to talk about these books? You're muted.
Oh, thank you. The other book is Into White. It's actually a very funny premise. The main character wishes to be anything other than Black. So she ends up becoming white. And there's like all this hijinks and exploration of race and the construct of race in the whole novel. It's definitely very like fanciful, but it's a really interesting premise, and it was funny in a very tasteful and appropriate way.
I don't have any other announcements. We hope that you'll join us next week. I'll put the link again to the show notes in the chat. And you can view what we've done for the last 9 weeks. And usually it takes a little while for me to download all these things. So later this evening, I'll have all the books and where you can find them up on our website. And I'm going to turn the recording off. And we would love to hear what you're reading.